Okay. Yes. This is advanced communications. Yeah? Yes. This is for advanced communications for the workplace, summer 2014, May 9? May 16. Oh, there. Yeah, but it said May 9 somewhere else. Okay, May 16. Now, what I'm trying to do, folks, is bring together a number of the key issues that we would have done more slowly had I not been ill. Yes? And we're going to first then back up and reverse, if you want to call it that, to some important issues to do with basic writing structures. Because remember, accuracy is crucial. If we are establishing a communication with somebody online, we wish to make sure that every message has been clearly communicated. Yes? And we are also aware that when we're communicating online with an unseen receiver, we're actually establishing a relationship with that person. So that by the time you meet that person actually in the flesh, yes, you actually have given that person an idea of who you are. You've established some kind of bond, and it must be positive. Yes? Okay, this sounds old-fashioned, but old-fashioned things have gotten a chance to become old-fashioned because they work. That's why they've been around for such a long time. They've been around for long enough to become old-fashioned. So in other words, communicating is about establishing certain kinds of relationships. And our commitment is that these must be positive relationships. Now the assumption is, of course, that in actual fact, all communication is just about memos, letters, reports, emails, phone calls. This is not true. In other words, there are many, many other ingredients in communication which we have to be well aware of. First and foremost, of course, comes the body language, as the psychologists put it. Body language, we will be told if you look it up in a psychology textbook, is a collection of nonverbal cues of communication. Nonverbal, they're not based in words, coming from the Latin word verbum, word, yes? They're not dependent on words, but psychologists and communication experts actually tell us that they are more powerful and more impactful, if you want to put it that way, than actual words are. In fact, Professor Mehabrian, one of the major movers and shakers in communication in California and the television industry, tells us that when people listen to us, they actually pay 7% of their attention and they give 7% of their credibility, only 7%, to the actual words we say. Frightening. That the rest of the credibility, the believability, the trust, all the rest is given to the nonverbal signs of what he calls conviction. In other words, one of the main questions your listeners are asking will be, and the main one is, do you mean what you are saying? Do you believe what you are saying? Can I afford, in other words, to trust you? Amazing. Good evening. Help yourself. Please sit there. Please leave the door open. Thank you. Okay. So when we speak about credibility, then believability, we're also talking about the conviction factor. Do you mean what you say? Do you believe it? Or are you just saying it because perhaps somebody has paid you to sit here and say it? So we immediately come into the important territory of trust. Now, if we think about it clearly, many aspects of human society are built on trust. What is it the bankers are taught? Know your customer. Yes. And the banks operate on a basis of trust. The whole investment institution operates on a basis of trust, and when that trust is defiled and violated, we have crashes in the stock market. We have people like, this man Madoff, emerging, Daniel Madoff, and so on and so forth. And people lose money. And equally importantly, they lose what? Trust. They lose trust in the economy, trust in the government, and trust, of course, in all the important institutions of the government. They start saving their money in their mattresses. They don't believe they can even trust the bank because banks collapse when bankers make wrong investments using other people's money, of course. Okay, so when we're communicating, then are we looking at an important factor? It's called trust. And when we wish to establish a communication relationship with somebody else that we've not met, we're doing it online, of course, are we also facing the challenge of establishing trust? And clarity is crucial to trust. We must not only say what we mean, but of course we must mean what we say. But we must say what we mean. Now, of course, there are many aspects to the communication business. And as I said earlier on, let us not assume that communication is simply about memos, letters, reports, emails, and phone calls. Yes? And we know phone calls can be recorded, as Mr. Donald Sterling has recently found out, much to his own chagrin. Yes. Okay. Let us then have a look at the booklet called Days 1 and 2, Sets 1 and 2, with a little drawing in the front. Yes? Okay. Many forms of communication exist, but one of them that we are most often exposed to, of course, and one that brings trust into question regularly, is called the grapevine. You see that little drawing there. Or in Cayman, we call it the Marl Road. Yes. It has some very distinct aspects attached to it. Now, are we here taking a wide overview of communication and expanding our definition of communication? Yes or no? Of course we are. Maybe even redefining communication. The Marl Road or the grapevine is very commonly met in large and small organizations. Yes? You are all civil servants. You work for the government. That means you work for the public. And we all know that members of the public are not always polite, yes, or courteous, or helpful. Yes. And of course, the other aspect is that the people we work with are not always polite, helpful, or helpful either. Yes? And can the Marl Road be one aspect of the communication within the organization that can actually distort communication? I'm told by older people that in actual fact, the grapevine shouldn't be really totally trusted, but it can be useful. But of course you need a strong stomach for it, because you will come across perhaps your own name somewhere in the grapevine, connected to things that make you not recognize yourself. Yes. Isn't that true? But let's look at it. My older sister says, yes, you may be shocked at what you see of yourself in the grapevine, but it's useful to just every now and then put an ear to the grapevine, because in actual fact, sometimes there is a little grain of truth in the middle of all the gossip, etc., in the grapevine. But there are aspects to the grapevine that we must recognize. The grapevine has a lack of factual detail. There's a lack of facts in the grapevine. Yes? It's full of all sorts of information. It's kind of like the soap operas on TV, you know. You know, these soap operas that are older than most of you in this room. Yes? The Bold and the Beautiful, the Young and the Restless, Days of Our Lives, etc. And something is always happening on these soap operas. The grapevine is like that. It's full of all kinds of events. But there is a lack of factual detail. Yes? There is a great deal of cynicism. The cynicism in the grapevine or the Mile Road is astounding. What do we mean by cynicism? A refusal to believe in or have faith in any positive aspect of human nature. In other words, the cynic is the person who believes in nothing good in human nature, distrusts human nature totally, yes, and absolutely refuses to believe that anything good can come out of human life. Yes? You say, oh, what a lovely day. Look at that wonderful sunrise. The cynic says, oh yes, by afternoon it will be pouring. Yes? And so on. For the cynic, nothing is ever good enough. Okay. Then there is a large element of distortion. Distortion means what? Twisting something. So the truth is twisted, yes, in the grapevine or the Mile Road. But ironically enough, shockingly enough, there's a high degree of credibility. Credibility, believability. The grapevine or the Mile Road can be very, very convincing. A high degree of credibility. Yes? A high degree also of exaggeration. Yes? And a high degree of elaboration. Elaboration, you know, fine details on finer points, yes? When you elaborate on something, it's like you're doing some embroidery, you know, and you do this little flower here, and then you make some extra petals, then you make some extra petals again, then you make some leaves. You know, these beautiful embroidered tablecloths that we used to buy downtown in that place called Faraway Places, which unfortunately closed. I don't know if you remember that place, any of you. They would bring these tablecloths from China mostly. Yes. And you know how creative these people in China are. And, you know, one little flower would have all of these petals and sepals, and then it would have some more little leaves, and then these leaves would have some more little leaves. Elaboration. Yes? Is that the same with the grapevine? Yes. Then, of course, a high degree of rumor and gossip. And of course, the rumor and gossip are related to the lack of factual detail. They're also related to the cynicism. But, believe it or not, the grapevine is an old but well-rooted form of communication. Yes? And of course, people's reputations can be assassinated in the grapevine. Yes? But my sister says that it's always good every now and then to find out, you know, what's going on in the grapevine. or as Tina Turner is said to have put it, oh, people are gossiping about me? People said that about me? Oh, well, that's good. At least they haven't forgotten about me. Yes, she said to have said something like that. But the truth is, generally speaking, the grapevine must not be trusted, though we must be aware of its nature. Be aware also of its impact. Now, on the second page of that booklet with the grapevine, you will notice that they have some questions related to effective communication. How is effective communication achieved? And those questions are worth looking at. We have a long weekend coming up. How wonderful. Let's consider it not a holiday weekend. Let's consider it a reading weekend. Yes? Okay. Then, of course, go in that same little booklet, please, there, you will look at page 3. Now, what I've done, as I said to you previously, was extract from different textbooks, different useful pages. Yes? It saves us a lot of money, of course. Yes? And a lot of time. Okay. And this one comes from a man called Cole, Management Theory and Practice. Why do we rely so much on management theory? Why? Because management theory is closely related to communication, professional communication, which is what we are all about in this course. Yes or no? And we're going to talk about the impacts of different management styles on how communication functions in our particular workplace. We'll get there in a minute. Yes? But if we look at page 3 of that little booklet there, you're going to notice they give us some types of communication in terms of directions. Yes? We have the downward communication or the vertical communication, which is quite often in government funded organizations like what you work in. It's top down. Yes? Uh-huh. And the top down communication can be effective at certain points, but it can be very alienating at other points. Why do I say that? Because the top-down communication ignores that the people at the bottom levels of the organization actually have a great deal of information that they could share on how to save money, how money is being wasted, and how to actually make changes that could actually benefit the organization. Ironically enough. Yes? I don't know if you've watched this thing on TV. It used to come on Sunday nights. Was it on CNN? Called, would you like to close it then now, sir? Thank you. Yeah, I think we got a bit warmer. Thank you. And if you're getting too warm, let me know, okay? Do not suffer in silence. Okay. It was called Undercover Boss. Okay. And this was the owner, manager, boss of various organizations who pretended he was just some nobody worker, newcomer, new kid on the block. And what he found out by listening to people at the bottom levels was an amazing wealth of information that could be gotten from these people. One girl was a recovering drug addict. Yes. Who was working at the lowest level of the building, was it a hotel or something, in the laundry room, I think, where they got all the dirty linen from the upper levels of the hotel. And she was training him because they thought he was just this new person who knew nothing, and got to chatting. And she said to him, you know, I keep thinking that if the laundry did not come directly down in one chute, if there were a way of separating, I guess, the heavier things from the lighter things. From the time when they came down, if we had a different kind of chute and a different kind of receptacle for receiving things, we'd save a lot of time in sorting. Was she absolutely correct? Yes. I don't know if you saw on TV this Japanese man with hair whiter than snow, yes, he had retired, not from Toyota, but from somewhere else. Anyway, he was hired by some huge organization to resurrect this bankrupt organization. Yes. And he did. And guess what he told people? His method was to go on a Friday evening to the garage where all the truck drivers, etc., who delivered the products all over America, where they are all over their cities that they visited, where these people all came in on different Fridays, and have some beer. Have a beer or two and listen to what the guys were saying. Could these truck drivers tell the people in marketing where were the places that needed more or less of a certain product? Where were the places that needed fewer deliveries per month or more deliveries per month or deliveries on a certain day, because those were their heavy-duty days, etc. But the people upstairs in the air-conditioned offices and boardrooms never thought of talking to the truck drivers, least of all listening to them. Exactly. Is that then what the bottom-up communication can do? It can actually solve problems. So we have vertical communication, as in standing up that straight. But in actual fact, the top-down communication has its uses. But the bottom-up communication can save you a lot of money. Okay. And then there is the lateral or horizontal communication that operates on the same level. Okay. Now you notice that I put in the left-hand margin there directors, relators, thinkers, and socializers. Who are these people and what do I mean? Okay, now I must not mess up this one, my friend. Yes? This is the magic board. Yes? Or the smart board or something. Yes? And I'll never forget this man, very wealthy Emmanuel man, who says to me, yes, I'm sending my kids to this private school and it's so expensive. And they're learning about the smart board and this and that. But are they learning to read and write? Or am I the person who is teaching them to read and write in the night? Okay. Now, if we're looking at communication, are we also looking at communication styles? In other words, are there, just as in fashion, we have different styles? Yes? Okay. Do we have different styles of communication? Of course. And they've been divided into 4 different groups. The thinkers, the directors, the socializers, and the relators. These are the 4 communication types, okay, or styles, the 4 main ones. Okay, what do these involve? The directors, okay, I mean, I think their titles say a mouthful. You can figure it out, can't you? Yeah? Of course you can. Okay. Yeah, if you start to get cold, you let me know. Okay, please. Now, these are 4 communication types or styles. The directors you meet a lot of, especially in the civil service. They say, I'm the boss, I'm in charge here. I've come down from the mountain side with Abraham and Joseph, and I had the word. And you will shut up and listen. And I will give you the word. The directors, in other words, are your authoritarian, autocratic types of managers and leaders. Yes? Now, the directors can be very, very useful in emergencies and in times of a lot of confusion and conflict. Why? Because they give a clear, undiluted message. Yes or no? In places, for instance, like the fire department, you've seen on TV these huge fires that are hitting California. Yes? In places like the fire department, do you need communicators who are directors?
Yes.
Who give a clear, undiluted message? Yes. They are usually, if we're looking at management styles, and our management styles or leadership styles also related to communication in the workplace. Of course they are. Yes. And will these fall into 3 main categories as well? We may as well just deal with them as we are going along. You have the autocratic, yes, or authoritarian manager or leader who relies strictly on power and who says my way or the highway. Yes? The authoritarian and autocratic managers are not strong on listening. Yes? No. And are they usually, in their communication style, directors? Yes, of course. They say, we've come from the mountaintop with the word. Here is the word. You will shut up and listen, and I will talk. Or I will send out an email or a memo, and I do not expect any argument. Yes. Now, on the other hand, we have another management style that is very commonplace too, in maybe not in the civil service so much, but this is the laissez-faire management style. It's coming from the French, meaning literally allowed to do. Laissez, allow, faire, to do. Allow to do. Or as the Americans may put it, live and let live. Yes? Now, the laissez-faire managers they assume that all workers and all members of the organization are mature individuals and mature professionals who must be trusted to do what they're supposed to do. The laissez-faire style will obviously work very well with mature professionals. And by mature, we don't necessarily mean in age, Okay. But of course, in times of emergencies or conflicts, the laissez-faire manager does not give a clear direction. And as such, then, can actually create more confusion. Yes? Or can turn people off because the laissez-faire manager then seems not to care enough or seems to lack direction himself or herself and leaves the organization with a sense of a lack of direction. Yes? Okay. Now, laissez-faire managers are often socializers in their communication style. What's the communication style that we call the socializer? These people are extremely charming. They know how to socialize. They are very good at cocktail parties and luncheons and such things. Yes? Give them their due. They're often full of bright ideas, but they don't see things through to the end. Yes? So socializers then often align themselves with backup staff who are good at the details and the nitty-gritty. Yes? Socializers may come up with all sorts of creative ideas, but they're not good at following through with the nitty-gritty of their ideas. Yes? And quite often your laissez-faire managers are socializers in their communication style. And then you have the democratic managers and leaders. Yes? These say everybody has a role to play and everybody has a contribution to be made and everybody's voice must be heard. Now, the problem with the democratic management style is that it is slow to make decisions, slow to act. Why? Because many people are being involved, and sometimes decisions have to be made fast. Okay, so that's a weakness with the democratic style. The strength of it is, of course, that when all parties feel respected, they will actually work harder. They're actually more productive. That's an interesting thing. Even though common sense will tell people that we all can't make the decision. Yes? And that we all have different perspectives, but we all can't necessarily be satisfied. Common sense and maturity will tell us this. But when people feel valued, which the democratic managers know how to make them feel, they are actually more productive. Yes. Now, democratic managers are often who? They often are the relators in their communication types, or they are the thinkers. Now, what is it about the thinkers and the relators' communication styles? The thinkers, on the surface, may seem a bit cool and detached. They're not chatty. Yes? Unlike the socializers, they're not chatty. Yes. But the thinkers, as their name suggests, understand the value of backing off of certain issues and thinking things through carefully. Maybe looking at the statistics, looking at the research before they open their mouths to make suggestions. So as I said, the thinkers may seem a bit remote. They're not chatty. But when they open their mouths or put pen to paper or finger to keyboard, pay attention. Because the thinkers have actually spent some time analyzing the situation and coming up with solutions before they communicate. And of course, Democrats are often relators. The relators put a great deal of value on human emotions and human relationships. Relators are often great as HR people. Yes? And relators, though they may seem, maybe to be a little bit too fluffy, Yes, relators are great peacemakers. They're also great communicators. Why? Because they respect people's feelings and they understand the immense value of what? The core virtue, courtesy, and its second cousin, charity. Yes? In other words, relators understand that if you want to get the best out of people and the best out of your workers and co-workers, respect the human relationship that's involved and the human emotions that are involved. And that when you show that kind of respect, you will get the best out of people. So relators understand the absolute value of courtesy and its second cousin, charity. These are your relators. And your democratic leaders understand the value of these as well. And your socializers understand the importance of courtesy. But of course, the socializers are more manipulative in their goals. The socializers are charming and courteous because they want you to do whatever it is they want you to do. Yes? Whereas the relators and the Democrats actually understand more clearly the value of the human virtue called charity. And, of course, its second cousin, courtesy. Fair enough? Now, are these all some of the underpinnings and reinforcements of effective communication? Yes or no?
Yes.
Absolutely. Do they influence effective communication? Yes or no? Yes. In our first booklet, courtesy of Kenneth Cole, we also have these diagrams. You know, he calls these directional types of communication networks. Yes? Okay. Now, Cole is famous for a line that actually hit me when I read it, namely what? Seek first to understand. And later on, if possible, it would be nice to be understood. Yes? I don't know if you know that song, an old-time song. You're all too young to know this one. I'm just a soul whose intentions are good. Oh, Lord, please don't let me be misunderstood. You know this one? No?
You could probably sing it for us.
Can't. Can't sing it in tune. Do we know this lady, Nina Simone? She died a few years ago, African-American blues singer. She was called the High Priestess of Soul. She ran away to France after President Nixon blacklisted her, to use an unfortunate phrase, because she criticized the Vietnam War. And of course, like a lot of African-American performers, she found her most loyal audiences and fans in France. Yes? Anyway, one of her big songs was, I'm just a soul whose intentions are good.
But before we go forward, can individual leader have more than one of those styles?
Thank you. Very good point. Can one leader combine within himself or herself a number of these styles? Can they be authoritarians at some times and Democrats at some times? Can they be the socializers and the directors at some times and often the thinkers too? Of course. Thank you. Would that be the good, effective leader?
Yeah.
Yes. He definitely, that kind of leader will definitely not be misunderstood, right? Because that kind of leader is working at what? Understanding others. Remember what Cole says, seek first to understand, and then later, if possible, to be understood. Now, if you have a look at one of our other handouts that we got today, yes, you will see something called Ethics and Communication. It's a one-page one to all my students. Yes? Here we are. It's a one-page list which I've put together for us. Fair enough? Okay. Who is going to read for us? Now, if you volunteer to read and you do it well, you will get volunteered again.
Don't mind reading. Which bit will we start on?
It's page 1. It's, well, actually, thanks for volunteering, but I guess, would you like to come forward so it can go into the iPad? Yeah?
Dictate, as in I'm being recorded?
If you don't
It's a
mind.
blog you'll be creating.
If you don't
I'll
mind.
volunteer that quickly another time.
Here we are. Would you like a
Just the whole
chair?
thing? No,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Okay. The following, ethics and communication, yes? And I'll interrupt you at times, okay?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So ethics and communication. The following are some reminders about the ethics and effectiveness of writing and of generally ethical communication in a professional context. Number 1. Remember the 3 major ethical systems: rules-based, rights-based, and utility-based.
We will come to those in a minute, okay?
These also govern workplace communications. CSC as in Roberto, improving business communication, or relevant handouts discussion. Number 2, the grapevine is known for its cynicism, not its accuracy or factual nature. Do not repeat or rely on anything you get from the grapevine. Number 3, positive listening styles include listening without bias or prejudice. Such listening will get you the facts, the inferences, and the reality. These are what you need to communicate ethically and accurately. Number 4, technology.
To stick a pin, please excuse me a minute. To listen without bias means clearing our minds of a lot of assumptions and stereotypes. Is it difficult to do?
Yes.
Yes. Because, of course, we have to actually admit that we have biases. And that's hard to do. Those of us who've been watching Mr. Sterling on Anderson Cooper's show, you have to watch it. You see what we're talking about. In other words, this man says, I'm absolutely not a racist. Yes? And yet, he then opens his mouth and contradicts himself all over again. He says, oh, I love Magic Johnson. And then he turns around and runs Magic Johnson into the ground again. In other words, it's very hard to recognize our own biases. Mm-hmm. Yes?
Number 4, technology helps us to communicate faster, but we must respect privacy, confidentiality, ownership and intellectual property rights, and accuracy, and humanity.
Exactly.
Number 5, remember that emails, like letters, memos, and reports, are all legal documents. Send nothing that may embarrass you later. Use the draft button before you press send. Number 6, courtesy and its rules are never out of date, and they are part of ethical, effective communication. Avoid angry tones such as sarcasm, cynicism, and the sardonic tone. Number 7, consider the purposes, the impacts, and the context of your communication before you send any message by any method. Number 8.
And the impacts. And what's the golden rule? I told you I'd keep interrupting you. When in doubt, do not send. If you have any doubt as to the clarity of what you've said, the courtesy of it, or the impact of it, wait. Think it through again. Yes? Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Number 8, never, never write or dispatch what you write when you are upset or angry. Review drafts and use the draft button while you calm down.
We spoke about that, didn't we? Yes. Mm-hmm.
Number 9, double check all facts, figures, and details before you dispatch or send any item. Number 10, a report is not a report if it is not accurate. Number 11, your name must be respected by you before others will respect it. Therefore, do not sign your name to anything whose words, demands, details, or inferences you distrust or question in any way at all.
Crucial. And if people try to pressure you to sign your name to documents that you are unsure of, do not do it.
That's hard to do.
That's hard to do sometimes on the job. Is it better to wait?
Yes.
Postpone. Manufacture excuses. If necessary, we don't want to say lie, but procrastinate. Yes. It's okay to say, can I think about it for a moment? Yes or no?
Number 12, neatness is a compliment to your reader and to yourself. Clarity and coherence are time savers in the long run. Aim for all of these for your own benefit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. In other words, are we going to add our own reminders as we go along? Thank you. Okay, let us then go back to the one I emailed to you. Users regret hitting send. Yes? I'm going to send around my diary, and I'm going to ask you please to write your name in it and write very, very clearly your email address and phone number. Okay? Now my phone, what I do is I get it hooked up to the college's office phone number. So if you send it, the college has a phone number for the offices, but we spend very little time in the office, let's face it. And if we wait till we reach back there tomorrow, there's a time lag. So I got this hooked up to the office phone number. So if you just use this number, we get through really fast, okay? Please sign the names for me there and write the email addresses really clearly and the phone numbers. Now, my phone number is here.
925.
Yeah, you got it somewhere.
5137.
Yes. We all got it on one of the handouts?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. And if I lose my beloved BlackBerry, I'll get back the same number. Okay. Let us then move on with some of the important aspects of the written word. Oh, but before we move on, in that same booklet that we've been using for the grapevine, etc., yes? At the back of it, you'll see an extract from a book that really has had just a major life-changing impact on me. It's by a man called Daniel Goleman. It's called Working with Emotional Intelligence. And you'll get it for about $18 or $20 in Books and Books.
Working with emotional.
Working with Emotional. It's at the top of the last page of the Grapevine booklet. And it will be some of the best dollars you'll ever spend, trust me. Well, for me it sure was. Okay. Working with Emotional Intelligence. And of course it was a blockbuster, head of the New York Times book list for months and months and months. It was preceded by his work, Emotional Intelligence. But interestingly, of course, does he give us a definition of what emotional intelligence actually is? And his theory is that for years and years and years, in most Western cultures, we've been impressed by people who get straight A's all the time. Pardon me. In other words, we're impressed by scholastics. But what studies at respected universities like Harvard and so on, that here studies he's done, have found is that the people with the straight A's transcripts do not necessarily do that well in the workplace. If they lack what he calls emotional intelligence. And if you look at this thing called the emotional intelligence, the emotional competence framework, it's at the back of the booklet with the grapevine on the front. You will notice he divides his concepts into two levels. The personal competencies, which he calls self-awareness, self-regulation, and motivation, and the social competencies, which he calls empathy and social skills. And you notice I've put marginal notes relating to our types of communicators, the thinkers, the relators, etc. Yes? Okay. Do spend some time on it. It will ring several bells in your head. Okay. Yes. Okay. What else do we wish to add there? Now, is this concept of emotional intelligence something that also will affect how we redefine communication? In other words, we're not just looking at communication as letters, memos, emails, etc. Yes? We're redefining it in more liberated ways and more comprehensive ways. Okay, let us also think in terms of some other factors. The three major ethical systems. We just mentioned them. Now, there was a big conference, international conference here at the college recently about ethics in the workplace and the economy. And I'm sure you realized on your own, we've all realized it when we watch the news, etc., how unethical managing of public money can tear an economy apart, can ruin an economy. Yes? Have we seen this in the Caribbean? Yes. Maybe you don't want to call names. Do we see examples of it in places like Nigeria?
Guyana, where I'm from.
Yes. Let's face it, Nigeria is rich in oil. Should it have the kind of poverty and chaos it's having?
But still the person from there was the main speaker here.
Yeah, but she's somebody, I think, whose life has been threatened because of her protesting the unethical practices. Now, what do we have? Look at you. If you look them up, yeah. If you look them up, there's online, different places. There's one called the Blackwell Encyclopedia of Ethics. They come under different titles, but it's the same thing. There are three main schools: the rules-based, the rights-based, and the utility-based. Now, what do these involve? The rules-based system says something is ethical and morally acceptable if it respects the rules of the given environment or corporation or institution. Is this why, for instance, workplaces like the civil service and the police force have a number of very clearly defined rules and regulations? Yes or no?
Yes,
Because they want to leave no room for doubt. Then there is the rights-based system, which is based, of course, on the universal concept of human rights, which says that all human beings, by virtue of being human, have certain inalienable rights that should not and cannot be taken away from them unless under extreme situations. Say, for instance, after the 9/11 bombing, the right to privacy was taken away from people in America for obvious reasons. the bombers had been living within America for a long time. Yes? Then, of course, the utility-based system is the most freewheeling of the lot. This says that the usefulness, the utility level of the given decision or act will decide whether it is ethical or not. In other words, an act is ethical if it is of the most usefulness to the vast majority of people in the organization. Now, it may be most useful, or it may have been most useful for some of the medical drug producers in South Africa to copy the patents, to steal the recipes of the anti-AIDS drugs some years back, because they were facing an AIDS epidemic. Yes? But were they violating the rights of the drug producers who had actually spent billions in creating these drugs, in the research? The South African producers said these people were putting profits over human lives. Thank you. It was a big debate. I don't know how it ended. Now, are these things we have to keep in mind in our communications as well? Are there times when we may have information which we do not wish to communicate because of these ethical systems? Maybe somebody's right to privacy. Or are there times when we should pass on the information? It can be complicated. The problem with the rights-based system is that it demands maturity and honesty. And it does what? It says, where my rights end, yours begin. And I must know where that point is. Okay. Now, do these affect our communication as well? And the higher up the line you go in management, is the more these things are going to affect your communication. Yes or no?
Yes.
And while we're on the topic of ethics, do we also have to keep in mind the Christian virtues? Faith, hope, charity. And along with charity comes its flip side, courtesy, or its second cousin. Rules of courtesy may vary from culture to culture, but they are never out of date. Courtesy is never out of date. And if your communication remains courteous, you will get positive responses. Even when people can't do what you want them to do, they tend to respond with courtesy too. 80% of people will. Some people will not. And we just have to accept that that is how those people are. Yes? But along with the 3 Christian virtues, do we also want to keep in mind the 4 classic Greek virtues? These are fortitude, yes, justice, prudence, and temperance. Now, fortitude, what does that mean? Strength, but is it just physical strength? No. Fortitude is often symbolized by a woman holding a baby in one hand and a huge metal shield for protection in the other. Is there anybody more vulnerable than a woman holding a young baby? Well, the baby itself, yes? Mm. But in actual fact, is there anybody more strong than the mother who wishes to protect the child? Exactly. But when we're talking fortitude, are we talking physical strength only, people? Of course not. We're talking emotional, psychological, even spiritual strength. Yes or no? What the Americans call guts. Yes? What the British call tenacity. Hanging in there. Yes.
What's the last? It's temperance.
Temperance. Then there is justice. That is represented by the scales. Then prudence. The definition of prudence is the capacity to make wise decisions even in conflicting circumstances. And then there is, of course, temperance, the capacity to control all unruly passions. Oops. Is this why we mustn't press the send button when we're angry? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So talking about writing an email and letter when you're upset. And I will agree with you that sometimes you say things that looking at it a week afterwards, you don't believe you said that.
You say, did I do that? Good grief.
But is it possible for you to write a courteous and proper email while upset as well?
Difficult.
Difficult?
Difficult. I find that even waiting a day and a night can help. Can it also, when we're upset and angry, can it help to talk to somebody that I call the silver? The person who has enough silver in his or her head, even though they may spend time at the salon getting rid of it, yes, that their years of experience have given them a wisdom that we need when we're upset. The silver is the person who will tell you when you're right or you're wrong. The silver is the person who will help you gain the emotional distance that you need before you press any send buttons. So my suggestion is, when in doubt, wait. Okay. Let's have a look then, please, at the thing I gave you to read for homework, yes? Now do all of the things. Yes, ma'am. You didn't get it at work? No. Okay. Do all of the things we've been talking about affect communication? Do we all have users regret hitting send?
Yes.
Yes. I got some more good copies in case we need it. Yeah. We need one? Yeah. Okay. Let's have a look. Now, again, does effective reading mean careful reading? Now, the higher up the line you go on the job, oh, sorry, lady, here's part 2 of it. Users regret hitting send. The first part says, please read this for Friday's class. The second part gives the rest of the paragraphs. Do we all have the 2 sets, all the paragraphs? We read it at home. Yes.
It ends at paragraph 20.
It ends at paragraph 20. Okay, how many of us read it? I hope. Okay, now did we notice a certain level of repetition in it?
Yes.
Why? Why did this writer repeat himself so often?
Because a lot of persons I think more persons are guilty of pressing the send button without double checking what is being written.
Because he really needed to hammer home the message. Is it a message that enough people do not pay attention to? Yes. Okay, now what I want us to do is also practice a different way of reading. We're practicing a different way of defining and redefining communication, aren't we? In terms of all these factors we've been talking about this evening. Yes? But let's practice a different way of reading. Active reading. Now sometimes we feel as if we're drowning in a sea of paper or words. You know, you press this button on the computer and all of this stuff just comes out at you like an avalanche. Yes? What do we wish to do? Absolutely look at the structure of the page. Yes or no? Yeah? Here we are in a little book that says Reading and Writing Skills. We're going to spend time on all these handouts this weekend, you know, my dears. This is not a fun weekend. This is a reading weekend. Yes? Here we are.
We don't have a weekend according to our shift. But
According to your shift, you don't have a weekend. Weekends don't exist. And holidays do not exist. Please erase that word from your dictionary. Yes. Okay, here we are. Classic paragraph structure reminders. Thesis statements and thesis paragraphs are the basic message of the entire piece of writing. The thesis statement is both assertive and argumentative and comprehensive. Comprehensive means it summarizes a lot. Yes? And it tends to spotlight the basic message. Yes? Now your thesis statement is going to be your most important sentence in your memo, your letter, or your report. Yes? The basic communication that you want people to get if they don't get anything else. Yes? Now, is that why this man we found, he repeated the same thing in different ways? His thesis was, wait before you press the send button. Then the thesis statements are followed by their second cousins, the topic sentences. These are the sentences that spotlight or summarize the main ideas for the paragraphs in which they appear. They add clarity of focus in each paragraph. Now these are your two most important sentences in your writing. Now if you open that booklet and go around to the second to last page, you'll see a little diagram. Here we are. The core message appears where? In the thesis statement. Here we are, dears. It's in that same booklet. You found it?
yeah.
The thesis statement has, it's opinion-based. It has some kind of argument or message it's asserting that it wants us to get. Yes? And it at the same time spotlights whatever is the most important message of the entire communication. Then you have your topic sentence, which doesn't have to be argumentative or assertive or aggressive, but it spotlights the main ideas for the paragraph in which it appears. So they are both spotlighting elements, yes? But the thesis statement works for the entire piece of writing, whereas the topic sentence works for the paragraph in which it appears. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Then we have our supporting details, which are facts and evidence, statistics, definitions, comparison, contrast, example, and illustration. They are all other information that the writer puts in order to develop or clarify his ideas. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now, how do we tie it all together? We call them the transitions. Some textbooks call them the glue words. These are the words that we take for granted on a regular basis. And, but, however, nonetheless, yes? Those are the little words that bring the ideas together. And if you go online and you look up transitions, you're going to be amazed at how many they are. Now, can writers create their own transitions? Transitions do exactly what they sound as if they do. Namely what? They make transitions between ideas, between sentences, between words, etc. Yes or no?
Yes.
That's why we call them the glue words. Okay. Can we then begin? Now, when I give you something to read, or when you have something to read, do not rush. Effective reading is usually done quite slowly. And don't get anxious if you're doing it slowly. Trust yourself. Yes? Okay. Make sense?
I will have to leave shortly for work.
Surprised.
Sorry?
I'm surprised.
Why? Because I say trust yourself?
No, well, that too, but reading slowly. And generally, a presentation, and particularly one that you're reading from a script, well, I have always thought that the listeners are, you know.
Oh, that's if you're reading for people.
Yeah.
No, I mean reading for yourself. If you're reading for people, should you practice it and time yourself first? If you're
Yes.
given 10 minutes to deliver a speech,
Yes.
practice it so that you pace it properly. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Did we all get the addenda to users regret hitting send? A one-page thing with questions. Yes or no? Do I want you, if you have to do that, I know the police people have to leave at a certain point sometimes. Do I want you to try with that for homework? Yes or no? Okay. Can we continue though? By the way, folks, you come here tired. Bring tea, coffee, crackers, sandwiches, whatever you need to bring, because some of you don't have time for lunch. In other words, get comfortable, okay? As long as we clean up after ourselves and we don't bring anything that leaves a smell. No Kentucky Fried Chicken, none of that stuff. Yes? Fair enough? Okay. Let's take a deep breath. What is one other ingredient in the communication that is of supreme importance?
Body language.
It's the body language of the written page. It's the tone. Just as we said at the beginning, the body language of the speaker is more important often than the actual words he or she uses. The tone of the communication, which out loud can have to do with the texture, the pitch of the voice. Yes? On paper, it has to do with the emotions that are being communicated, often by the words we choose. Yes? The emotional dimension of the communication is the tone. And the tone will direct the response to your communication. This is a fact. In other words, if your tone is hostile or angry, people will tune you out quite early in the day. Yes? And then there are the people who like to just press the delete button, you know? Yes. If your tone is polite and caring, they will continue reading even if they are bored. And remember, your purpose in writing this email or letter is to get them to read. So the tone can hook them or lose them. Does this make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Let's have a quick look at what Professor Dunbar is saying, shall we? And I want you, are we going to be active readers? We don't wait for Moses or Abram to come down from the mountain to tell us if we're wrong or right. We trust our reactions. If on the first reading you feel something is somehow important, even if you're not sure why, mark it with your highlighters, your magic markers, your colored pencils, whatever. On the second reading, you will know why. Furthermore, by the time you've done a slow reading, marking things, 80% of the questions that I will give you, the comprehension questions, will redirect you to something you have marked. But do you have to trust your reactions? Absolutely. Okay, is this why reading more slowly can actually be more effective? Yes. Okay, thank you. You see how often this word trust comes up? Okay, can we continue, dears? Internet users were warned. Do we all have a colored pen or pencil? You want one? Yeah. Internet users were warned over the dangers of pressing the send button in haste, as research suggested that millions of people have posted comments and messages online which they later wished they had not. Is this summarizing a lot in one mouthful right away? Yes or no? It's going to be either a big topic sentence or maybe even an opening thesis statement. So should we mark it? And at Oxford University, an Oxford University behavior expert blamed the absence of the checks and balances found in everyday face-to-face communication for the trend. It's some kind of backup information, isn't it? Yes? Maybe facts and evidence, some kind of supporting details, background information. And could paragraph 2 and paragraph 3 actually have come together? This professor has blamed the lack of what? Checks and balances. And facial expressions, reactions such as laughter and vocal tones, the pitch of the voice, the texture of the voice, yes, are all vital natural tools in helping people judge what they say, according to Professor Robin Dunbar, Professor of Evolutionary Anthropology at Oxford. Could numbers 2 and 3 have gone together? If we are looking at our little diagram, this diagram, do numbers 2 and 3 look like, does number 3 definitely look like supporting details? Example and illustration, facts and evidence. Yes?
Yes.
And number 2 could be a topic sentence. So my friend, you're going to come back when we meet again. When do we meet? Next week? Oh, so that's why we have all this reading to do. What do I want from you when we meet again on Friday? I want all these questions on users regret hitting the send button done. And if they are not done, do we need to put a note in the margin, a big question mark as to this is a problem, we need to go over it properly in class? Yes or no?
Yeah.
But are we to trust our judgment? Take chances? Fair enough? Yes. And anything that looks problematic and you've thought about it, can't really work it out, put a question mark in the margin. This is not for grades, it is for practice. Do I also want you to read every other handout I have given you? Because we prepared a lot of stuff for today because of this holiday. We pay for the holidays, don't we? Okay, sir, your name is?
Sean Basil.
Okay, have a good weekend. Thank you. Okay, so are we thinking then that paragraph 1 could have been an opening thesis statement? Is it a bit argumentative? They were warned. Okay. And is there also an argument? Millions of people have posted comments that they later regretted. Okay. So did we mark it as important? Yes. Number 4, in extreme cases, the absences of these checks and balances can lead to online bullying, the professor warned. Is this more of facts and evidence? So could 2, 3, and 4 have all gone together as one long paragraph? Would you agree with me there?
Yeah.
Yes. His comments came as a survey of 2,000 internet users found that more than half believe that social media is replacing face-to-face communication. Are we looking at a sentence that, in a sense, spotlights where all this information is coming from? Could it be a topic sentence, perhaps? Yeah. It looks important, doesn't it? However, yet a quarter of those polled admitted writing personal remarks to someone online which they would never say to that person's face. Facts and evidence. Yes or no? A similar proportion admitted posting material on or comments on social media sites which they later regretted. Are we looking at comparison and contrast? So could 7 and 8 happily have gone together, and did I put them together?
Yes.
Yes. But 1 in 5 admitted that they rarely or never stop to check what they have written before clicking send. Good grief. 1 in 5 never reread. Can you believe that?
No. Don't want to believe that. It's scary.
It is very scary.
Hmm.
Yes. Okay. So did we mark 1 in 5? Yes. So could 7, 8, and 9 all go together as one long paragraph? Yes or no? What do you think?
I think so.
Perhaps, yes. And then a new thought. Men showed less caution than women, with less than a third stopping to check, compared with 4 out of 10 among the female respondents. The women were more cautious about what they had written before they pressed the send button. I wonder why. Are women taught to be nice girls and nice ladies? And do nice girls and nice ladies always remain polite?
No.
Is that the golden rule that women are taught
Yes.
from childhood and by society? Yes. Nice girls are seen and not heard. Yes? Nice girls always smile. Yes? And nice girls definitely check what they've written before they press the send button. Is this the nice girl impact? Are men taught that being male means being aggressive
Yes.
and confident
Yes.
and sure of themselves? So press the send button. You don't have to check it. What do the gentlemen think of that? What do you think, my friend over here, the policeman?
Depends.
It depends. Okay, spoken like a future detective. Yes. Okay. So the men had a different approach. The findings were contained in a report about internet behavior carried out for the Holocaust Memorial Day Trust. Yes, the Holocaust is recognizing the wiping from the face of the earth of countless numbers of Jewish people by Adolf Hitler and his friends and followers. The theme of this year's commemoration day, which is Speak Up, Speak Out, urged people to combat hate speech, and discrimination, including on the internet. The study showed that social media can be a force for good. Could we put number 11 and 12 together?
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Exactly. But did they bring out an interesting new point? How many of us noticed it? Speak up, speak out, but what about paragraph 12? A force for good can often be a force for good. Yeah? We're aware it can be a force for bad, for bullying, for hatred, for hate crimes, all kinds of things. Yes? Are they investigating right now in America in this high school where this group of girls were sending around emails listing people in the schools as like, dislike, hate, kill? The police call it a kill list. Okay, 13. 4 out of 10 people said they think they had used sites such as Twitter or Facebook to speak up for causes they feel passionate about, etc. So are we looking at facts and evidence supporting paragraph 12 that these things can be a force for good? Yes or no? Absolutely. But no, and so we could have hooked up 12 and 13 together, couldn't we? Yes or no? Yeah. Then number 14 now shows us another view. Professor Dunbar, who analyzed the results of the Memorial Day Trust, said, "It is important to remember that through experience in face-to-face interaction, it is through this experience that we learn many of the social skills needed to negotiate or navigate our way through our complex social world." This is true. Our research has shown that people are far more prone to saying something on social media that they later regret, because in these digital environments we don't receive the immediate checks and balances that we get from face-to-face interaction. You say something and the person raises their eyebrow. Yes? Or you say something and they refuse to look at you. Yes? These are some of the checks and balances, aren't they? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. This can therefore result in a careless or inappropriate tweet, or worse yet, cyberbullying. He added, "There is something about seeing the whites of people's eyes in interaction which gives you pause and prevents most of us, at least, from being very rude to people." Yes? In other words, when you say something, you may not mean to be rude, but it comes across as rude. People have a tendency to open their eyes wider, yes? They may not say anything, but they give you that look. Yes. But of course, the people we call the, what are they? Not the relators, no. The people who come down from the mountain with the word. The directors don't bother with all of that. They just say what they have to say, don't they? And we can take it or leave it. Yes. There is something about the responsiveness of the other individual that we are very, very quick to pick up on, or we should be. A study carried out for the Know the Net Internet Awareness Campaign last year showed that millions of people regularly risk breaking the law because of messages they had posted. Facts and evidence. Yes? Mm-hmm. In a string of court cases following last summer's riots in England, young people were jailed for inciting violence on the internet, in some cases for comments which they took down themselves. Ironically enough, only a few hours later. Now, those riots cost the British economy, I think, a couple billion well, because of the damage that was done. Yes? And of course, a lot of it was racially biased as well. If there were people from the immigrant countries who had little shops, they burnt down the shops, etc. We see on TV where some girls committed suicide because of the nasty things that groups of girls in their colleges were sending out on internet about them. I don't know if you saw Anderson Cooper's interview with one of the mothers. Heartbreaking. Yes. Okay. Does this man then have a point? Does it open our eyes wider to how our communication has to be very, very carefully vetted? Yes or no? Before we press that send button. Definitely. Now, many of you in this room will find yourselves in managerial positions, whether you like it or not. Yes? And our management positions, leadership positions, of a kind. Yes. And you know what this one lady, Helen Harding, in this lovely little book called Leadership, said, leadership is getting people to do enthusiastically what they would not otherwise necessarily want to do. We can pay people $1 million to do a job, but can we pay them to care? Is that the point? Can the way in which we communicate with them help them to care, even in bad times, even under bad conditions? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions so far? I gave you some addenda for this one. Are these some of the key issues in the passage? Yes or no? Mm-hmm. Okay. We have questions on tone. We have questions on writer's purpose. We have questions on, true and false, inferential reading. One more thing, dears. As I said, it's not for grades. Everything is not for grades. Do not worry about grades. If we worry about the learning, gaining control, will the grades come? Absolutely, my friends. One more thing before we go. In this little booklet I gave you something called Some Complex Tones. That's in the one with the grapevine on the front. Yes? Yes or no? We got that? Mm-hmm. Some complex tones.
Not the great plan.
No,
The other one.
You know, it's
Not the great
in.
plan. Reading and
Yeah,
writing
man,
skills.
your right hand, your right hand is touching it.
Yeah, reading and writing skills.
It's
the
in
one with the
reading
great
and
plan.
writing skills.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Now, are these all the emotions and attitudes that the human heart is capable of? Of course not. It's in reading and writing skills, dears. Yes? Mm-hmm. It's in the booklet called Reading and Writing Skills. It's a little graph. It looks like this. Okay? Yes or no? Okay. Now, is the human heart capable of 1,000,000 or 1,000,000,000 emotions? Yes. Sometimes contradictory ones all at the same time. That's why we get high blood pressure, probably. Yes? Okay. We're happy, the tone is happy. We're sad, the tone is sad. We're concerned, the tone is concerned. And so on. But are there some that are more complex? And they're often used quite loosely, these words. So I've come up with some definitions. Yes? Make no mistake about it. The tone you use will direct and impact on the results you get, the responses. Yes? Mm-hmm. Okay. Irony is a core tone. It's used constantly. It's also a way of seeing life. It's neutral. It's a style of perception. It spotlights contradictions of many kinds. Is life full of contradictions? Absolutely. Contradictions between what is expected and what happens. Contradictions between what should be and what is. Contradiction between what appears to be and what is. Okay. Irony points out the awareness of contradictions. When Professor Dunbar, when in that passage it says, but many, many people admitted that they never reread before they pressed the send button. And is it a bit ironic that the men were more careless than the women were? Yes. Okay, so when we're looking at contradictions, we're looking at irony, and the tone is ironic. Fair enough? And then, of course, another core tone is criticism. It's opinion-based. It is positive or negative. Yes? And can criticism connect with some second cousins to give us some awful, horrible results? Some no tones. Criticism plus laughter can give us satire. Now you know the expression, either everybody should be laughed at or nobody should be laughed at. You know that one? Yes. Be very careful. People, you know the expression, everybody should be laughed at or nobody should be laughed at. Often people make a criticism by making a joke. Be careful about those jokes. That's satire. Criticism plus anger gives us sarcasm. Sarcasm is hostile, hurtful. It often overstates or understates, exaggerates, makes things ridiculous. Yes? It's an angry tone. Somebody comes late and says, "Oh my God, I didn't keep you waiting, did I?" You say, "No, of course not. I'm just sitting here doing nothing." You understand? Uh-huh. But sarcasm conveys anger and can be very hurtful. Then, of course, criticism plus scorn, bitterness, disillusionment, disenchantment, distrust equals cynicism, like the grapevine. It's a very alienating tone, like sarcasm. Don't use it. Then criticism plus bitterness, mockery, sarcasm will give us the sardonic tone. This is like a hit below the belt. Yes? Sardonic tone, never use it. Never use it at work. No, never use it on paper. I can give you one joke that gives you an example of the sardonic tone. You know these movies, the Dracula movies? Yeah? And Dracula has kidnapped this girl and he says, "I'm going to make you into a vampire." And she says, "Oh, no, you can't do that. The handsome prince, my fiancé, will come and save me." Dracula says, "Of course he'll come and save you, as soon as he resurrects." Of course he'll come and save you, as soon as he resurrects. In other words, you fool, I've already killed him and I'm going to kill you too. Now, the sardonic tone combines sarcasm with these other nasty elements. It is very alienating. And when people use it, especially on the job, it creates enemies for them. Yes? So are these some interesting tones, and should we pay attention to these second cousins of criticism, which are no tones? Fair enough? Okay, my friends. We have covered quite a little mountain today. And I've been talking fast. Was it too fast? No. Okay. All right. So we're going to catch up on the reading, and then we're going to do the questions on users regret hitting send. It's going to put a lot into perspective as regards what? Classic paragraph structure. Because we're going to see our topic sentences, our thesis statements, our supporting details, our tone. We're even going to see some transitions. I'd like you also to look up on internet transitions. You know these wonderful people called Google. If you look up transitions, you will find lots and lots and lots of them. Okay? Any problems so far? We're okay? So next Friday. And then, of course, we'll bring a snack of some kind. But thank you so much. for your attention and patience. Thanks a lot.
Good weekend.
You too. And we will continue. Thank you, sir. I need one of the gentlemen to help me with this bag. You have to run. Yes.
I'll be happy to help you now.
Thank you very much for earlier on. Yes. Yes, yes.
Sorry I was late. I'm Tracy.
No
I have
problem.
emailed you about, I have to be at my desk till 5.
No problem.
So I'm always going to be
No
around.
worries.
So
No
I'll just
worries.
come in quietly and get on.
No worries.
Thank
Usually you'll find that we repeat those things constantly anyway.
you. Reinforcing. Thank you. Have a lovely weekend.
Okay, there. You too. No, and don't drive too fast in the
Well,
traffic.
it's not really an option, but I wouldn't. But I'm sorry that is my situation.
No, but it's better late than never.
Thank you.
Remember, it's better to come even an hour late for a 2-hour class. You still get an hour.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay?
Thank you.
All the best.
Thank you.
Right over there. Okay. My husband is going to meet us probably downstairs.
Okay, now.
Okay. We need to turn this off. Press. Slide to unlock. 5137. Yes. Press done, right?
Not